Hey everybody, welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Rabun,
And I am Tiffany Salcido.
and we are a couple trainers that are ramping up, getting busy, getting a bunch of work, having meetings. I taught one class this week, but I was in meetings all the rest of the days talking about other classes and looking at opportunities. And so, it never dies. And if it dies, that's a bad thing. So, but how to balance
True.
it, to where the water is dripping to when it's just overflow gushing, right? So, that's definitely a challenge. How about you, Tiff? How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm hitting the road next week, and from then on out, the madness begins, and I'm pretty slammed for the rest of this year. December's still in progress, but September, October, November are all pretty fruitful for me. And so I'm excited. I did do some work this week virtually, and that was great. I when I do series of courses with the same group cohorts, I always feel like the sense of sadness on the last day, especially for groups that I really, really enjoy. And this was a group I really enjoyed. So Tuesday was our very last day, and I was super bummed. And it was great. And it was funny because I our classes technically end at 4 o'clock, but I always tell people I'll hang out here if anybody wants to chat. If not, like have a good rest of your life if I would never see you again. Uh, and I was on the Zoom for like another like 30, 45 minutes with just people, wanting to chit chat and stuff. And so it was really cool. And then I had a bunch of meetings on Wednesday. And then yesterday was Thursday. So yesterday I didn't work, but I was running the streets. You know how I love running these streets, but we had to go to Rancho Cucamonga because we needed a new weed eater. Remember, we were talking about judging people's yards? Well, my yard was so judge worthy because our weed eater broke. And I don't know if you know, but in California, you can't buy gas powered weed eaters anymore. It's only electric. And so um, Mr. Salcido did not want to pay full price for a weed eater, and so he's been on like Craigslist and OfferUp, and I don't know what all. He loves the online marketplaces. That is like his favorite hobby. Is he's always finding weird shit online. So he found one. It was a price that he was willing to pay. So we drove to Rancho Cucamonga yesterday morning and picked it up at like 10. And then we had like time to kill. And since it's like an hour drive over there, so we're always like, oh, like what can we do while we're in this area? So we had found a barbecue place that he wanted to try called Oak and Ember. It's right across from the Ontario Mills.
Mm-hmm.
And but it didn't open till like 12 or 1. I can't remember. I think 12 it opened. So we had to kill time. So I went and got a pedicure. We went to the Ontario Mills. We did a few laps. I went to Home Goods and checked. By the way, went to Home Goods, purchased nothing. Went to the Ontario Mills Mall, bought nothing. I'm really thriving in life, let me tell you. I know. I'm really, really thriving. Um, and and then we went to this barbecue place. And this is why I'm giggling ahead of time because it was such a fun experience. My husband found the spot on Instagram, and it was very Instagram worthy. And the big like thing that they have there is that you can get the super super secret uh, menu platter of all the meats, and you get 4 sides. It's like enough food. I'm not even exaggerating for like 6 or 7 people, and it was just my husband and I. So we were like, we want the super secret menu platter so we could try all the stuff. And then the platter came, and we were like, oh crap. We didn't, by the way, we didn't even ask how much it cost. We just
Yeah.
wanted the super secret menu. So here we are at like 12:30 on a Thursday with like 28 pounds of smoked meats in front of us. I mean, there was like beef ribs and tri-tip and carne asada and half a chicken plus chicken breast plus big fat pieces of brisket. I mean, we're going to be eating barbecue for several weeks, is what I'm telling you right now. It was so much food. But that wasn't the best part. So as we're sitting there, like, oh, there's a couple next to us, behind us in the booth. Well, behind me, my husband could see them, but they were sitting behind me in the booth, who was actively breaking up and arguing the whole meal. I was like, what have I done right in this life that I get to experience this? Because if there's anything that you need to know about me, I am down with OPP, other people's problems. I love to like eavesdrop on other people's lives.
You like the
I'm
cheese
just
man. You're the
I
cheese man
love the
queen.
chisme. I
La
am
reina
the
de cheese
chisme
man.
queen. And so all of it, all of their whole breakup, and if you all are listening, couple, listen to me, call me, we'll work out your relationship problems. But it was like the most interesting fight. It was so ridiculous because the guy wanted the platter, and he tells the lady, "Get whatever you want. I'm gonna get the platter." And she's like, "Well, I just want a salad and a soup." And he's like, "Then get that. I'm gonna get the platter." She's like, "Well, what does the platter have?" He's like, "I'm not sure. It's on the super secret menu." But he's like, "Get what you want, and I'm going to get the platter." And so then he goes to the restroom, or she went to the restroom. Somebody left and came back, and he ends up not getting the platter. He ended up ordering like a bunch of stuff a la carte. And so when she came back, or whoever came back, um, it was like an argument about not getting the platter. And he's like, "I told you that I only wanted to come here because I wanted the platter." And she's like, "Well, then get the effing platter." And they were like cussing each other out. Like it was so dramatic. And then they'd go like through periods of silence. And so my husband, I would be telling him, "I just love you so much." As we're trying to dog down 28 pounds of smoked meat. "I just love you so much. I appreciate you so much. You're so easygoing," and blah blah blah. And so we're laughing. And then these people are like, he's like, "Try the cornbread." She's like, "I don't want the cornbread." And he's like, "But just try it. It's really good." She's like, "I think you're the problem." It was the best meal I've ever had. I was so happy. The
Wow.
food was okay. The food was great. I actually was really good barbecue. Their sides were pretty good. Their cornbread was good, but the entertainment, priceless. It was so delicious. At the end though, this was my favorite part. He says they've been, by the way, cussing each other out. Like, we're done. After this meal's over, we're leaving here. We go our separate ways. Well, I hate you anyways. If I want to be with somebody else, I'd be with somebody else. I'm effing here with you. Like, just the most disrespectful people ever. So I'm texting, by the way, my bestie in real time. Like, she's like, "Whose side are you on?" I go, "I'm on the side of them breaking up. They're toxic. They're super toxic. Like, they just I'm on the side of them both being single for a while because they obviously got some issues that they need to work on." And so she, at the end, when they're leaving, he says, "Did you enjoy your meal?" And she's like, "No, I did not enjoy my meal." And he's like, "Do you want to go Cheesecake Factory?" uh, oh,
Wow.
Carl, it was chef's kiss. So they left, and my husband and I are just like, "Wow, that was a ride. That was a wild ride. That was definitely a wild ride." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you think they were faking it?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know if that was real or if that was staged. Like, maybe John Quiones is going to come out of the woodwork to see, like, what would you do?" And I said, "I." I loved it. It was so I did a Google review for that restaurant. I said, "Dinner and a show. I tell you, 10 out of 10. I'd go back for sure." It was so juicy. I love it. So just so
Wow.
you know, if you ever fight with your spouse in public, I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm narrating it to others. I love it.
Wow.
So that's what I did yesterday. That's what I did.
Well, geez, that sounds like a question I didn't ask. So what's the best live event that you've attended?
That was it. I have historically been an eavesdropper. It's actually one of my favorite things to do when I go out to restaurants. I This is why, like, the pandemic was so hard on me, because you couldn't go out to eat, listen to other people's conversations.
Yeah.
So um I've sat we sat this one time, my poor Mr. Salcio, you've met him before. He's pretty
Mm.
quiet. He'll talk to you, but he's more reserved. He's likes
Yeah.
to listen. So um but which is good because I talk all the time, so it works out well for us. But we were sitting at a bar one time, like an L-shaped bar, and so I was sitting at the corner, my husband was sitting next to me, and on the other side, like on my side, there were two gentlemen talking to each other, and there was a TV like right above them, and so I'm like looking at the TV, but what I'm really doing is like listening to these two dudes talk, and they were so disrespectful to whoever they were talking about, and I'm just minding their business, by the way. I'm not minding my own business. I was absolutely minding their business. And at some point they're talking about this lady who got like 10% of their company. They were a bunch of like executive douchebags, to be honest with you. They were so pompous, even like, I make the dog sleep outside so he knows who the boss is. And I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's a real gem. I'm sure his wife is very pleased. um, so I'm sitting there listening, and then my husband starts to talk to me, and I'm going, shh, shh. And he's like, what? Shh. I'm very, very engrossed in what's happening over here. And I'm about to find out who Beth slept with to get 10% of the company. Because they're, so can we talk later? He's like, oh, I thought you were watching the basketball game. I said, I could care less about basketball. I am fully immersed in this discussion right now. And so that I live for that. So during the pandemic, it was really, really hard for me because I couldn't mind anybody else's business. It was rough. It was rough.
I like to be I'm a people watcher, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily listening to them, but I've, my wife and I are good at that. We can have those conversations, just, you sure did she pick that dress out, or did he,
Mm-hmm.
right? Did he pick out his wardrobe, or did she, or, or what's that look on his, or just whatever it is, right? We can, try to, just like all of a sudden, not even knowing this person, we're in a whole fantasy world of, the story beforehand, what's going to happen afterhand, what's happening in the moment without even really listening, but yeah, I enjoy people watching. It's people are interesting, and they make the world go around, right? So, and very often they help us. It's self-affirming as well,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I've always said that's why I believe people like watching Maury or Jerry
Mm-hmm.
Springer,
Mm-hmm.
because no matter how bad their life is, at least they know who the father of their children is, right? Or at least they
Right.
think they know. They're pretty sure that they, So, that Schadenfreude, is something that keeps people young and healthy, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty
Yeah.
too.
Well, I am an observer of like humanity. I love just life in general, and so I don't want to be limited to just like the people I'm connected to. I want to know what everybody's up to. So,
And and
uh,
let me say, your bestie texting back whose side you're on is so her. So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
if she's listening, yeah, that is so her. That's a perfect question for her. I would bust out laughing if I read that.
yeah, yeah. It was really great. I
Yeah,
really, really enjoyed it. It was quite wonderful. So,
that's funny.
so that was my day. And now I'm prepped. I have some other stuff going on that I won't discuss here where I'm kind of like on standby for a friend of mine, and I'm trying to keep life simple before it potentially gets really hard. So,
Yeah,
um, it was a nice little reprieve before the madness begins. But
yeah.
I'm excited. As much of to be honest with you, I've only trained besides tribal TANF, I've only trained in person like one. I did a 2-hour workshop a couple weeks ago in person. Um, and that's the besides tribal TANF, the only in-person training I've done since early June.
Hmm.
I've done a lot of virtual, tons of virtual, but that was like the last time I've actually been like live and in person. So I haven't done a full day in person workshop since like June 3rd.
Hmm.
And so that's 3 months. That's a long time.
Wow.
And I know we've talked about it here before that there's some conditioning that goes into doing full day workshops, like physically and mentally and emotionally. It's like takes its toll. And so I haven't done it for a while. I'm anticipating that I will be really, really exhausted by the end of next week.
Yeah.
And the next few weeks after that until I get my stamina. back up
Yeah.
because not easy.
Yeah, and that's yeah, I'm training twice in person next week. Um,
Yeah.
we're both training at the same conference next week in Sacramento,
Mhm.
and then after that, I'm headed down to the Bay Area for training. They wanted it in person, but it's a half day in person, right? Which is
Oh, I hate that.
yeah, it's interesting, right? So yeah, I would normally wouldn't, but San Mateo County is my home area, so I'll always if San Mateo asks, I'll figure it out. So but yeah, just getting used to it. I was looking at my pedometer on my watch, and just teaching in person over the last couple weeks, right? I taught in person at Sac State last week,
Mhm.
and then another one the week before. And you can always see the days that I train as opposed to the days that I don't, that I'm training virtually as well, right? I'll get I'm trying to get 10,000 steps, right? But some days just not happening, right? But on average I'll get six or seven
Yes.
more than six. But on those days that I'm teaching in person, it's always 11, 12. If I work in Stanislaus, 15, right? Because of the parking lot, right? But and then when I have gigs, because I'm moving around on stage for 2 hours, I get this big spike, and my watch told me the other day, you did a lot more, you know, exercise than you normally do. You might want to either ramp up your exercise regimen or don't be so active on those days. I was like, that's
Wow.
only AI could say that. It's either this or this, right? But it's like, wow, just stop doing it, right? Which is such an interesting question,
Right.
right? Is it either or? I mean, okay, well, if it's if you want me to stop being so active, you guys going to pay me, right? So I don't know AI,
Yeah.
which is part of our topic today, and leads me into our question of the day, which is, would you rather give up your smartphone or your computer?
This is so hard because both of them serve a very distinct purpose. But if I had to give up one, I would give up the computer because I could do almost everything I can do from the computer, I can do on my smartphone for the most part. Um, it would be make life very difficult, but I feel like the smartphone has a bit more functionality. Like a computer is like good for really specific things, but my smartphone does everything. So I would keep the smartphone. Yeah, for sure. What
Yeah,
about you?
yeah, I probably, just for the reasons that you said, smartphone, just because I can't carry my laptop around and answer, and I've fully bought it, drank the Kool-Aid, right? I'm the dopamine hit guy who's on Wordle, or if not on Wordle, doing crossword puzzles, and or texting, instant messaging, watching reels, right? Uploading our reels, right? And just those things like that, where we're so connected these days that I would find it hard. I mean, if I can tell if I go somewhere without my laptop, I still have my phone. If I go somewhere without my phone, I started having a little bit of anxiety. I noticed that. And so, yeah.
Do you remember when at Tribal Tanf I forgot my phone one day? I didn't have my phone or my watch. I was completely disconnected from everything. I was lost. It was so terrible. And I don't realize how much I use my phone. Not and by the way, if you ever called or text me, you know I don't usually call or text back. I'm a very short, low context texter. You can text me a paragraph. I'm like, cool. Like I don't
Me too.
send
Yeah.
like super long messages. And I definitely do not love to chat on the phone. So I'm not like, let's have a phone conversation unless it's something like serious that we need to talk about. But I use it for so many other things. I use it for like music. I play music in my classrooms. That whole day, I just had to listen to the air conditioner hum. I was like, this is so uncomfortable. I hate it so much. Um, just navigation, how to get around. being able to check in and be like, hey, I'm over here in this room, like just to like coordinate logistics.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
such a, I didn't have a marker and I had to like walk all the way through the resort to get a marker to go all the way back up to the training center. It was that those days I had like 50,000 steps. I'm exaggerating, but there was tons of steps. And it's funny because I wear a smartwatch too, which by the way, I just got a new one. So I'm pretty proud of my new smartwatch. And this one too, I can make phone call. Like I always laugh because sometimes I forget my phone in the car, but my watch receives phone calls. I feel like Kit. Do you remember the Kit car? What was that? What was that show called? I know you will know,
yeah. Night
Carl.
Rider, Night Rider.
Knight Rider, yeah. So I'm like, hey, I'm over here in the pickle aisle. You know what I mean? Like I can talk on my phone on from my watch, which is like super futuristic for me. But I didn't even have that. But I mean, it tracks like my sleep, my activity, my everything. And I'm a huge fan of like data driven decisions. And so sometimes my husband will be like, how'd you sleep last night? And I'm like, I don't know, let me check my watch and then I'll tell you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
And he
I hate
drives
it
it
when I
nuts.
don't. Yeah, when I don't have my when I don't have my watch, like if it died in the middle of the night, I'm just like, how did I
Yeah.
sleep? I only got half of my sleep recorded. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'll wake up in the
Or
middle of the
I,
night and I'll be like,
yeah.
oh shit, I got to put my watch on, and I'll come out in the living room and grab it. My wife's like, what are you doing? Just don't worry about it. Me being me, being silly, you know.
Yeah. I'll take the dog for a walk and I have my watch on. I'm like, I'm wasting steps right now. I'm totally wasting
Yes.
steps right now because it's not tracking him.
No, the
So
worst
much.
one, it will not track your steps when you're pushing a shopping cart.
That's true. That is absolutely true. So I make my husband push the shopping cart because I need my steps. Okay, so let me tell
I
you.
let my
Go ahead,
go ahead.
finish yours.
I
No,
let my
I
wife push her push. I mean, because we both like to push the shopping cart. We were on Costco. We did a Costco run yesterday, and I'm always within $30 of how much we spent. Just so you know, I'm just price is right for me. I you know,
right.
win two showdowns, but we both would rather push the shopping cart. But I recognize that my steps don't. So she has a watch too. So I let her push.
Yeah.
Or if I'm pushing, if I'm by myself and have to push, I'll push with my right hand. And I'm terrible.
Let that work.
I've drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah, I'm a Gen Z. So
Yeah.
that's sorry, America. But I'm a Gen Z
Not
who
sorry.
also remembers having to go to the library to do my homework, right? Rather than having the
Yeah.
library at home. I remember having the World Book and Encyclopedia Britannica, you know, so yeah. And
Well,
Gen Z are like,
well,
what?
so yeah. Before I got the Samsung watch, and I'm Android for life. So all you Apple people don't come for me. I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid. I don't even like apples. Um,
Jedis. We are Jedis. We are green people.
yes, but I am Android for life. And so I've had like every like variation of the Samsung watch. But before the Samsung watch, I had a Fitbit. I was a Fitbit junkie. And
Yeah, me too.
when the Fitbits first came out, when we got the first generations of Fitbits, we would have um, step contests all the time. My husband and I, and anybody else that we knew that had a Fitbit, we would do these step competitions. And the thing with Fitbit, though, so what's different from like older technology to new technology is that Fitbit used to count steps if you were just moving, but I think this technology, you actually have to be stepping. You actually have to be making distance. So we spend a lot of time in the car, right? Where we travel so much. And so when we would be in those step competitions, and if you ever saw me in like 2008, 2010, I'd be driving going,
Yeah. Jersey Shore, baby. Jersey Shore.
so we would, I don't know if you remember like Tybo, like Billy Blank's Tybo or double time, go. I'd
Yeah.
be in the car just getting my rest and I'd be like, I'm at 9,800, da da da. Or we would like go to bed and I'd be so close to my 10,000 step goal and I'd be laying in bed and I'd just be like,
Hmm.
just trying to get those last steps to reach my goal. But this watch says,
It's
get
GPS.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get up. We know you're not going nowhere. You're just looking foolish. get your ass up and go for a walk. Take your dog out. He wants to go outside. Yeah.
I've been
Can't
known
fool the.
if I'm at 9:45, I've been known to get up and just walk in place for those last 55 steps.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we had like a little now I do it. It's funny because now I'll do it. If I'm close to it, I'll sit there and I have this little like lap I do in my room until it goes it
Yeah,
like I get my little heart filled up and I'm like, all right, I'm good now. So it's
yeah.
ridiculous. Technology. It
My wife calls it
enhances.
yeah. My
Yeah.
wife calls it filling your rings. I guess those
Yeah.
Apple
Oh yeah, that's an
people,
apple.
they have
Yeah.
rings, we have hearts because we care.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Because we're better people. Judgment. Here's a judgment coming again.
Yeah, not judging at all.
Yeah. But no, I mean, smartphones, just technology, like you were saying a minute ago, I was kind of reflecting on this the other day, like how rapidly technology has shifted over like just my lifetime. And I'm not even 50 yet, but in my lifetime, we went from drinking out of water hoses, using the Dewey Decimal System, having to, you know, like you said, get the encyclopedia. When we had to type papers, we either typed them on typewriters or we had to go to the uh, library at the school to use the four computers that all the students shared, on the good old fashioned Microsoft Word, to
I know.
and now we're like Chat GPT, could you write me a 10-page research paper with APA formatting? Da, 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 and done. I mean, I'm not saying we should be doing that, but I mean, it's that simple. It's changed so rapidly in just my lifetime. I can't imagine when my kids are my age, like what technology is going to look like.
Yeah.
And it always,
No.
yeah, it always comes back to me this person that I deem to be a lunatic, a tattoo artist in East LA who did tattoos in the back of his house, telling me and my husband that Terminator is a documentary and that The Matrix was a documentary. And I go, this guy's a lunatic. And now I'm like, I think he might be onto something.
No, for sure.
He might be
Yeah,
onto something. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
And yeah, we've been saying that Terminator 2 is, it's getting there. And we were just having a conversation last night about remotes. My wife, we got a new cable box and my wife's like, "How do you get to the movies again?" Right? So I was there and her son was there and I said, "Just use this remote because you got to use the TV remote to get to the remote where you can use the other remote to remote it." Anyway, so I said, "Click this, go to cable box, click, VOD box. I got a super box, right? So, and it'll load." And she's like, "I was watching Jurassic Park. I can't remember where it was." And I said, "Okay, wait. Rather than scroll down, the blue button on the remote is the microphone, so you can talk into it. Say Jurassic Park Rebirth or Jurassic World Rebirth," and it came right up. And she goes, "They're just making us more lazy and lazy, aren't they?" And then my stepson chimes in, "Hey, I have an Apple TV. If I want to get to Hulu, I press on and then another button and I'm there." I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's the same thing with
Mm-hmm.
our TVs." So it's really what it is Wally is something that is showing the future, but that's going to be pretty accurate if we keep having so much done that's easier and easier and easier to do. I read Oracle laid off 250 people the other day because a lot of what they were doing can be done by AI. And so they were made
Yeah.
redundant by a computer, right? Which would happen a lot at the beginning, with IBM and Xerox and all those things like that, right? Where a lot of folks had to have their jobs repurposed, right? Or just even in what we've known to do, in human services, going from, carbon copies where you sign the HIP agreement, you got to pull off the other one and send it off to, having actual huge files, right? Paper files to nowadays, how much is imaging, right? And how much are those cabinets used for stuff that is absolutely necessary as much as your home drive or your shared drive, right? And it really has changed the nature of how people work, how they approach work, right? And so it's new times. It's new times, and not I mean, should I say more advanced times? But does that mean it's better times, right? And I guess that's kind of the question, right? How has it changed who we are and what we do for the good and also for the bad?
You know, I feel like there's so much that we've benefited from technology, and I also feel like it's been a detriment. Like something just so simple as human connection. They I'm trying to use my words here. There are several states that recently have banned cell phones in schools. And I watched like a skit on YouTube, basically, um, where a teach again, it was a skit. This wasn't real life, but it made me really kind of reflect. Where the teacher was walking in, going, "What's that sound? What's that sound?" And then they were like, "Oh, that's the students talking to each other."
I saw
And they
that.
were like,
Yeah.
"I haven't heard that sound in years." And honestly, and I'm not saying one is better or worse at all, because to each their own, but technology, number one, as a benefit, I think has expanded like the range of people that you can communicate with, right? Because before it was like you're limited to proximity, who's in your community, who's in your neighborhood, who do you meet at school, at work, etc. And so I feel like technology has opened up the world to, well, you just see when TikTok was going to get banned the first time in January, when TikTok was going to get shut down in the US, and the Chinese TikTok became available. And so people in the United States and China started talking to each other for one of the first times. And we're finding out all this fun stuff like, your luxury brands are made for $20 and you can buy them directly from us in China and get the same quality without the designer label stitched into it. And so, um, in that sense, I think it's really beneficial for people to be able to open up doors and have communication and have interaction with people who maybe they wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to communicate with. But the dark side of that is that there's a lot of unsavory, uh, bad faith actors that utilize that anonymity of technology to um, do terrible things like disinformation, misinformation, manipulation, bots. Oh, F a bot all the way, all the way. Um, Trolls, internet trolls and people who like online harass and bully people like that. And they can do it anonymously. So, if I'm a bully in a schoolyard, there could potentially be some consequences for me. But if I'm a bully online with a fake profile pic, unless I do something that's really, really illegal, like I can live in that trolldom for my whole life, right? And that to me is super damaging. So it's like there's always a positive and a negative, like prizes and punishments. There's prizes for this technology, but there's punishments as well. um and then like I'll even say like I love, remember I told you I'm a huge fan of like the love after lockup or life after lockup and that type of thing. Like that's the other part of it. I remember back in the olden days having a pen pal. Did you ever have a pen pal, Carl?
I did. I had a pen pal
Yeah.
in Australia. Yeah.
I can't remember. So let me tell you the difference between now and today. When I was like between the ages of, let's say, like 12 and 15, I used to ride the train from Merced, the Amtrak from Merced to Carlsbad to go visit my grandma by myself or with my sister. So my sister's only a couple years older than me. So imagine a 12 and a 14-year-old riding 8 hours switching from an Amtrak to a bus back to an Amtrak in LA at LA station. But we used to do that regularly, and we never died. We never had any problems. But I met somebody on one of those trains, and it was a older gentleman, not old, but he was older than me, definitely older than me. So I'm going to say maybe in his 20s, and I was probably 14. But he lived in another country, and I can't remember for the life of me what country he lived in. But we were pals. We exchanged addresses on the freaking Amtrak, and we wrote each other letters back and forth for several years. And that was now that I'm reflecting on that as a grown up, that was probably a little awkward, but it was interesting. But with that being said, that access was facilitated by in-person connection. But now you could go online and find you a prison pen pal right now. They have websites set up that you can go find you a prison pen pal, or dating sites, or looking for friends, or looking for this. Like, people can be connected, and that's where, like, you can build this the part I'm looking for here is like this online connection,
Yeah.
and then you meet in person, and it's not the same, right? It's absolutely not the same. I mean, I see this on all of my shows. On 90 Day Fiance, they're so in love, and then they meet and they're like, you're kind of annoying. Love after lockup. Oh my God, we're so in love. We're going to get married. And they're like, oh, shoot, you smoke crack for breakfast? That's weird. Didn't know about that. You didn't share that in your letters. So, like, the technology definitely builds bridges between people, but I also think that online we have an opportunity to kind of curate and narrate like this online presence that not is not necessarily rooted in reality. And so when it comes to like human connection, that can be really daunting,
Yeah.
really, really daunting.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I watch every now and then I'll watch after the challenge, they usually show either ridiculousness or catfish. I don't
Yes.
really like ridiculousness, but catfish, if I don't have the remote around me and I might end up watching the whole episode. And yeah, I mean, how many times I think I've seen two episodes of Catfish where the person was actually the person, the pictures that
Yeah.
they had and everything. And, there was some reason why it was kind of weird, but it was everything else is always somebody's, presence who they want to be online. And you know what? I totally get it. I mean, I know some people who just put their entire lives online and they are TMI and, write 6, 7 paragraph screeds about things that are going on, right? And that's not me. I'm not interested in posting anything but things that I want to share with other people, right? We went to two concerts last weekend, right? We went and saw Charlie Wilson, Uncle Charlie's Cookout, right? I got the
Mhm.
apron that says Uncle Charlie's Cookout, right? But it's Charlie Wilson, Babyface, and KC from Jodeci, and
Yeah.
that was a blast. And so I take pictures, I put videos up, and I'll put them on social media, right? And then the day before, we went and saw Sign of the Times, the Prince concert video, which is my favorite concert movie of all time, in IMAX. So it was huge. The sound was huge. You felt like you were at a concert,
Yeah.
right? And it was amazing. And I thought about the two experiences, and I maybe it's because I'm more of a Prince fan than, but I mean, Babyface was just a sing along, right? We were just
Right. Right.
people were singing along for the whole hour he was up there, right? And even Charlie Wilson, he was, the songs that he did from the Gap Band, people were into, right? And his name is Charlie, what? Ooh, Charlie Wilson, right? That song, and Jodeci, KC was in the crowd the entire time, singing in front of people, which was pretty cool, But there was something about that movie, that Prince movie, that made me feel like we were at the movies. Maybe it's because it was an IMAX and he was just larger than life. But it was two different experiences of concert films that I had the same emotion and energy for. I wanted to get up and dance in the Prince, and I probably could have. I mean, we were on the end and we were up top, so people couldn't see me act a fool. But I mean, it was different, But it's just interesting how technology can sometimes bring that and bring forth that energy. And like you mentioned, yeah, the worldwide connection. Yeah, my pen pal in Australia, I would send a letter to him, and 6 weeks later, I get one back from him. So it took 3 weeks to get from here to Brisbane, Australia. Right now, if we're friends on Facebook, I can just instant message him and say, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Hey, good night, mate. What's going on? Getting ready to go to bed." I said, "I'm getting up to go to work." All right, those little things like that, right? Faster processing of information, right? We're able
Yeah.
to get things, be able to make sure that the automation has allowed us to enter things. Just taking back to human services, my first human services job, we were on a database that was based off of Word Perfect, right, from the
Mm,
90s. And
yes, I
so,
remember Word Perfect. That was the one I was
yeah.
trying to think of from the school. Yes.
And if anybody ever remembers GEMS, my Kern County folks, they're veteranos, you'll know what I'm talking about. GEMS was our C4 cow saws, you know, so it was before we went to C4. But when we entered information, we had to tab into the screen and enter the information, then tab to the next box in the screen, enter information. So I would tab Rabun, tab D, tab Carl, right? And then I would enter my information. If I missed a box, I didn't just get to go back to that box that I missed. I didn't could just grab my mouse and click in that box. I had to exit the screen, come back into the screen, and re-enter all of the friggin' information. So
Mm.
when we used to have to do narratives, I would do narratives. I would then I would cut and paste them and then put them on a Word doc just so I and before I exited out of it because I didn't want to have to re-enter it all the time. So it was just a hassle. And then the original saws were just codes, right? And so you had to remember all those codes. Nowadays, there's drop-down menus, right? And just even yesterday, I was at Costco, right? One of my very first jobs was at Costco, and they have the same conveyor belt barcode system that they had when they installed it when I was working there in 1992, right? But before that, in 1991, we were still reading the SKU numbers, right? So they had
Hmm.
codes that they would put on bags, and so 384, 53389, 2468, right? And we would call that, and the cashier would enter it into the 10 key, right? So that was something that I was really proud because I remembered a lot of the regular codes for milk and for tissue and all that other stuff like that. And so it would go by really fast. It was almost like a game, almost like a performance. And then when the conveyor belt started coming, it's like chink, chink, right? And so, but you got to find things to do. But it's just, I mean, nowadays they pre-do the barcodes to see if they can how fast they can scan them. That's what they were doing yesterday. But just even thinking about we've been alive, Tiff, since
Yeah.
technology has really come of age, right? I mean, we're of that generation where we're the first ones to have, as kids, to have Atari, ColecoVision, Nintendo, a Game Boy, right? Genesis, those things like that, or even, where a lot of folks had personal computers. The generation before us didn't have that as kids, right? And so but even then, our generation had that. Millennials had You Got Mail, I got Wikipedia. They didn't have to do the Encyclopedia Britannica, right? And now
I, yeah.
Gen
I
Z
have to
just
just,
has it at their fingertips.
yeah. I have to interrupt you really quick because I just unlocked a memory that I forgot I had. Because you were talking about like the tab, shift tab. Did you ever play Zork on a DOS programming?
Possibly, but I can't tell you if I did.
Okay. I had to look it up what it was called right now because I remember I used to go hard on this freaking game, but it was like all prompts. This was literally back in like the 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
probably closer to early 80s. Because I'm trying to like think of where I would play this at, but it was like you would start. This is all DOS, so DOS was like the black screen, green.
Yeah.
You had to type
Hmm.
like original coding. right? Without
Oh,
the code.
Oregon Trail. Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
this was even before
yeah,
Oregon Trail.
yeah.
There was absolutely no animation, no visuals. It was all text based. And so you would start out with like the first line was always like, you are in front of a white house. Hold on, what was it? You are standing in an open field west of a white house with a boarded front door. That was always the first line. And then you narrated, walk to the door, walk to the house, go the opposite direction, look around, find a compass. Like you would type in like directions, and then it was like, it would tell you what the next thing is. And then you had to keep going. And so, like Oregon Trail, like you would, if I would say, walk to and open the door, they'll be like, you just got killed by zombies, game over,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or um, you walk to the door, you walk in, you see an elevator, or and you could say, look around, what else is there? And it would like narrate it for you. The goal was you had to save the world or something
Hmm.
to that effect. Like it was like a spaceship. I don't remember all the details because this is again like 30, 40 years ago. That little stupid thing had me in a chokehold for a hot minute, let me tell
Yeah.
you.
Well, I'm a couple years older than you, so that for me that was a choose your own adventure books.
Oh, I love those too. I
Oh,
love
I
choose your own
mean,
adventure.
I went hard in the paint for choose your own adventures. If they were at the library or if they were ever on the book order that you did you ever have book orders in elementary school?
We did, but I was poor, so I just got to
Yeah.
watch all the other kids get books. But I used to like to go to the
Oh,
Scholastic Book Fair. I
yeah,
used to
yeah,
go,
yeah.
I used to go and circle all the books I wanted, and my mom would say, "You know what? Those are free at the library. How about that?"
Well, that was half of me too, right? And
Yeah.
so I would be able to get like $20, in the book order, and then what I couldn't get, I would be at the library. I sometimes when because I take the bus home sometimes, and it'd be an hour long trip, and but the bus stopped right in front. If the bus stopped right in front of two places, in front of the San Bruno Library or the A&W, which became the Wendy's. A&W had video games, so if I didn't have homework to do, I would go to A&W and I would play Tempest. That was my favorite, that little one with the thing. Yeah, and then but if I had work to do, homework to do, or I was into a specific, I was into Choose Your Own Adventure, or the new edition of X-Men came out, I would be up at the library, sitting there chilling. I mean, it was a little further away from home, but it wasn't that far away from home where it was almost kind of equidistant. It felt like it was farther. But God, I've spent so much time in the library on my own and enjoyed so much of it. And I think the only reason people under 40 went to the library is for story time. You're right, and
Yeah.
it's sad.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever been to a story time. Um, but I'm not under 40, so there you go. No,
Yeah. But then,
I love the
yeah,
library, yeah. But
yeah.
what
And
I
then,
love even more.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
But
Carl. Finish.
no, I was just going to say, so the faster processing of info, right? And then we have more access to information
Hmm.
than,
Hmm.
I mean, if you were, when I was at UC Davis or when I was going to school, I had access to what was in the library, but then also to the database that they had and those things like that. And so, you get that specified access if you pay for it, or, if you were part of the school or whatever else it is. Nowadays, people have more access to that information that we had to either pay or be a special member. I mean, Facebook started out, it wasn't for everybody. It was only for a specific, it was for Harvard and I think another school, and then Stanford was the third one to have, Facebook. And so everything kind of grew
And
after that.
and it was intended to rate hot chicks at their schools.
Well,
That's
yeah,
let's not forget
yeah,
that part.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I access and like speed of information is fabulous.
There's also a
I'm
drawback.
Oh, definitely drawbacks to that for sure. Because here's the thing, people also, there's so much information available that people cherry pick what fits their narrative. So, I mean, we're seeing that right now with the CDC and, like, oh, this one study shows, germs aren't real. Kick rocks.
Well, it's just it. I mean, this is the problem. Our brains want to do that,
Right.
right? Our brains want to, when we have a narrative, our brains want to confirm that narrative. That's what confirmation bias is, right? So, you know, if, oh, I don't believe in climate change, well, 97% of the world's scientists say that they agree with it. Yeah, but what about those 3%? I'm sticking to that, right? And even if it's overwhelming, so our brains will get into that locked in information. I want to hear what I want to hear. I don't want to hear dissenting voices, right? The generation before us, they had four sources for news: NBC, CBS, ABC, PBS, the nightly news, where Walter Cronkite or somebody else had to go straight down the middle and tell you exactly what's going on. The last time there was a scandal, the red scandal in the 50s, right? Joe McCarthy, the senator, he started bringing up a lot of people on communist charges. That was debunked by the CBS Evening News. Edward R. Murrow, he did an expose and totally ripped apart that scandal. Nowadays, that won't happen because as much as and we see it, major news sources will debunk a theory that is not rooted in science. All you have to do is turn to another channel where they say, yeah, well, that's what the mostly people think. That MSM mainstream media thing. That's what they want to do. They want to sell stuff and they want you to buy into it. It's a worldwide cabal, whatever it is, right? And so people can nowadays, because there's more access to information, you have more access to hearing the things that you want to hear, and you get into your bubble, and it just reinforces everything that you've been told, from what you were watching the night before, 2 years ago, right? And if you want to believe that somebody's right, all you have to, I mean, if there's 10 documentaries that say OJ did it, there's one documentary that said, are you sure he did it? And, you know, and so in the back of your mind, like, well, we don't know for sure, right? And so, and even if you're rooting for the team, I could tell you, as much as I wanted to know the truth, I also wanted to believe that OJ didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when
Mm-hmm.
he got off, I was like, rather than he's innocent, I said, well, he got off. Wow. Right. Because I was on Team OJ until I found out how much what was really going on with OJ in his life. Right. And then I had a
Right,
different
right.
narrative. But in my head at the time, as a 22-year-old, I'm like, oh no, he grew up in San Francisco. He went to the same high school my parents went to. Their high school football fields named after him, right? He grew up on Potrero Hill. I grew up on the other side of Potrero Hill. All these things that made me root for my home team, you know, I part of me wanted wanted to celebrate the fact that he got off for killing his wife. Right? And that's how powerful our brains are. So this stuff that we're seeing now is nothing new. It's just there's more access to the information confirming whatever whatever theory you have of life. You can find one or two people that will confirm it, and that's all you need. And you'll
Mm-hmm.
listen to them as they keep talking, rather than,
Yeah.
well, what does the other side say? And that's the problem with rational thought. Is rational thought is this is the truth. Like you said, data driven decisions. This is the data that shows what's actually happening, the evidence that shows exactly what's happening, right? And so I would say a majority of us would say, okay, I see that. I get it. I understand. Even if it's a tough decision, I don't want to have to do this, but hey, look, my employee no showed 4 days in a row. That's it's grounds for termination, right? Or, I've worked at a place where we had a no touch policy at our facility for our customers, and I had to fire two people because they, you know, restricted them or touched them in a way that was against our policy. It sucks because I understand what they were trying to do to protect them, keep them safe, but at the same time, that's our policy, right? And so I had to follow those rules, right? Nowadays, you don't have to follow the parameters of what is logical or what is the law. The law is being challenged on a regular basis because we hear information that might say, oh, I don't believe in that law. Yeah, you're right. You shouldn't believe in that law. Let me tell you why. Right. And so it just builds up your resistance. And so it's That's a definitely, and we talked a lot about that in last episode, and it got emotional, and
Hmm.
so I get it, and I'm getting emotional now, so I need to woosah. But just talking about the what the challenges is with technology is that it gives you more access to misinformation that
Yep.
if any and the way that it's couched in a logical way, not that it's logical, but a logical presentation, which it's an argument. It's like a lawyer getting up and defending a client that did it. They they present an argument that said there's no indisputable evidence that he did it, right? And so that's more people have more access to that. The challenge is, and like you said, with AI, you can have people come up with term papers and all those other things that are AI based, and they might sound good. I had somebody who did that in my class that I teach,
I remember you
online.
telling us. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I told him, I said, you got to be better at your cutting and pasting, but at the same time, that's computer logic. Like I said, the computer logic tells you to, either, exercise more or don't exercise at all, right? As opposed to, so talk to me about what's in between. Because if you can't ramp up your exercise, what's in between that you can do? That's called human critical thinking skills, right? And
Right.
that's something
Right.
maybe we can program into a computer, but at the end of the day, computers look at predictability. AI looks at predictability. Human beings are unpredictable,
Yeah.
right? And they can change their mind like that. They can have their mind swayed like that. And so they will give you the logical course, which is why some of those AI companies have had to fix their chatbots because chatbots are following logical courses of kids who are thinking about killing themselves,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
giving them ways to do it, or even
Yeah.
adults, right? And so if you want to follow a logical line of thinking, accessing AI can help, or historical information that maybe you need, you, but if it's in terms of the nuance of human thought processes and human psychology, you know, really that's always going to be its fatal flaw. It
Yeah.
will push the button if it seems like that is the most rational thing to do, as opposed to if I push this button, millions of people will be at risk of, you know, living their lives, right?
Yeah.
Which is something that computer cannot factor, right? On an emotional
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. I I find it, I mean, I'm using AI. I'm finding ways to use AI. And my chat GPT's name is Ray, and we're best friends, and also my favorite coworker. But I try to like think of ethical and beneficial ways to use AI. Like I don't want AI to replace me. I want it to enhance like the way that I work. So um one of the things I'm a I love to read books. I love to read books, and I love to like get new ideas. But one of the ways I really like to use AI is to do like book summaries. So if I like see a book I want to read, I will go to ChatGPT and be like, "Hey, I want to buy this book by this author. Can you summarize it for me real quick?" And then it'll give me like the main points. I'm like, "Yeah, I want to read that," or "Oh, yeah, no, that's not what I thought it was going to be," right? Um, so I love AI for that. I also love it for helping me like brainstorm. This is one of the things with AI that is been like something that used to take me 2 to 3 hours of like, how do I word this? What direction could I go? I can go, hey, Chat GPT, I'm developing a workshop for 40 people. This is the audience, and this is the time, and this is what I have, and this is what I want to do. Like, what do you suggest? And then it'll help me brainstorm like, oh, that's okay, but I don't really like that part of it. What other like interactive thing can I do here? And then it gives me ideas. ChatGPT is always trying to do the most. And so it'll be like, do you want me to create guides? Do you want me to create worksheets? And I'm like, no, I can do I just needed your help like figuring out the framework. But again, something that might have taken me 3 to 4 hours before I can knock out in 15 minutes or so, which I really love. And then I use ChatGPT all the time as like my favorite recipe slash bartender, um, like on the regular. So because I'm going to be leaving for a week soon, I'll be gone. And I have some groceries in the fridge that need to get used up before I leave. Well, now I've got 28 pounds of smoked meats I've got to eat over the next few days. But I have some stuff that is perishable that I can't freeze. And so I'm like, hey, Chat GPT, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this that I need to use up. Like, what can I cook that's freezable as a finished product with these ingredients? And it gives me like great options. I'm like, I wouldn't have thought of, to make that, but that sounds delicious. I'll make that right now. So it like for me, it helps with like that stuff. Or what did I tell it the other day? Because I always talk to it like we're friends, by the way. I think I use up way too much memory. I'll be responsible for like the electric grid because I'm like, hey, bestie, we've got an adventure. I need to do this, this, and this. What do you think? And then there's like, hey, bestie, like it's so complimentary. But um, that's like the way that I use AI. That I have, I have some people close to me that use it in really intuitive ways. Um, like our bestie, my bestie, but your friend, she's really, really good at like prompts and like using AI to do some really, really cool stuff that I would have never, ever, 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 ever thought to use. Um, and so I think like in using AI, I think it's important, well, of course, to be ethical, right? Plagiarism is still real, even if it's from AI. You don't copy and paste. You want to put your own thoughts and your own spin and your own flavor on it. But you can get really creative in using it in a helpful way, but not like again, don't make AI so useful that it gets rid of you. And
Well,
AI can be again, it talks to you like conversational, but don't use it to replace friends and family members either.